Hey everybody, it's Jake with Jake Jackets. I just wanted to go ahead and say that for today's episode, we had our very first guest interview with Alex Chauvancy, who is a writer for the New Jersey Devils with the Hockey Writers. It was very fun talking with Alex. He's a friend of Jay's. But unfortunately, after the interview, we had issues with Zoom and we couldn't really get a proper ending. So I'm going to just say right now here at the top that we're sorry, and we're going to cover a lot of other topics like the Blackhawks and a few other heavier things later on Saturday's show. So enjoy our talk with Alex. Go Jackets. Let's beat the Devils tonight if the show goes up post game. Still enjoy our interview with Alex. It was really fun to chat it up and talk Devils with him. So, yeah, enjoy the podcast, everybody.
You're listening to Jake Jackets. Gear up to fire the cannon and hit the ice with your host, Jay Ashdown and Jake Gehringer.
Dude, I am excited for today's episode. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Me too. This will be a lot of fun. I'm very excited for it. It'll be a good time.
This is going to be a really fun one. Like we've been, saying for days on individual Twitter, on the podcast Twitter, which please still go follow that. We're trying to grow as much as we can. JJ Jackets Pod. It's simple enough. You'll find us, right?
Yeah.
We're hyping this up because this is our first episode with a guest today.
Mm-hmm.
It was total change of plans. Yeah, total change of plans from what we thought we were gonna do. But we're gonna make this quick. We're gonna do a little Kepi. We're gonna recap most of the Pens game. That should probably take both of those, maybe 10-ish minutes, 15 minutes at most. And then we're going to dive right into it with our guest. And then if we've got time later, we got a few more things to talk about.
Perfect. So you did Kepi last.
Kepi first the last time?
Yes.
It was me? Okay.
Yeah. Should have said that differently. But
phrasing.
Yeah. I think it's easy. I think he's struggled this season. He's been incredibly inconsistent, but the most noticeable player on the ice outside of Elvis was Roslovic.
I think that's Rosie's first Kepi this year.
I thought he had it after the Buffalo game.
Maybe
where he scored 2 goals.
Oh yeah, maybe one of us did give him one.
I think we gave him for that, but still, it's been tough for him this year. It's not been a great year for him. So, and that's my issue is there's it's been so inconsistent because he's been invisible for like 8 straight games.
We talked about him last episode as like trade bait.
Mm-hmm. He'll go 8 games doing nothing, and then he'll have like 2-3 points.
Right.
And then 7 games doing nothing, 2-3 points. Like it's just the games that he's producing in, he's doing well in. Like he's putting multiple points up, but then he's just invisible for the next several games.
Yeah, that's streaky players happen.
There's nothing wrong with being streaky. Laine's streaky.
Laine's very streaky.
I don't think it's as much of an issue with Laine as it is with Roslovic.
Well, because Laine, he's got the notoriety to where when he goes on those streaks and he cools off for a bit, you're like, okay, he's going to be fine.
Yeah, he is going to be fine. And he at least still presents the threat.
Mm-hmm.
Where even if he's cold, if he hasn't scored in 4 games, you're not going to back up on him. You know what I mean? You're not going to get some time and space. So defensemen still need, players need to step up on him. And he still has the ability to make a play because he draws so much attention. So Roslovic doesn't really have that.
No, not really. Not yet.
So it's a
Not
struggle with.
well, it's like Larson's also not really giving him the position to succeed, like we talked about last episode. He needs more time.
That's the problem. It's that debate of he needs more time, but as a coach, has he earned more time?
Right.
And that's a struggle because you are a team that's trying to win. I know we're in a rebuilding season. We're a rebuilding team by definition, but and I said this in the Discord, like they're trying to win.
When you finally talked.
When I finally talked in it, they're trying to win games. It's important. They're trying to continue building on the culture that was instilled by John Tortorella of winning.
You went on a whole, like, your reply to Ramon was just like, here's all my thoughts at once.
Yeah, which is
kind of
generally
funny.
how I am as a person, but like I think it's fair to say, like, as a team, they're trying to win hockey games and Mark Shea wrote a piece on this recently too.
That's what all teams are supposed to do.
It's what they're supposed to do, but not all teams do it. But I don't know if you saw, Mark Shea wrote a really great piece about, like, sorry, CBJ fans who want like a really good draft pick, like this team, it's not in them to lose hockey games. It's not in their makeup to tank. No. It's not their identity. This is a team that has built a pretty good foundation, a good culture. And it's not just under Torts. It really started when Jarmo was first hired in the 2012.
Yes, I think I did just see this, where it's been since it was part of your reply, and it was also like I've seen a couple of other tweets.
Yeah, so since Jarmo has been the GM and he was hired during the 2012-2013 season, the Blue Jackets have had 3 coaches. It went from Todd Richards to John Tortorella, now to Brad Larson. It's 2022.
That's not a lot of turnover.
It's not common in the National Hockey League. It's not.
Usually there is a lot more turnover with those contracts. Yeah.
Well, it's just hockey. It's the most absurd sport with coaches. They go through teams go through coaches like toilet paper.
They go through goalies like toilet paper too. It's like
they just recycle the same damn coaches over and over again.
The recycling is an issue.
It's an absolute issue. But the Blue Jackets have found success with it, because they went from Todd Richards, who was an interim coach, after they fired Ardeal, and then he became the head coach. And then the 2012-13 season was pretty good, just missed the playoffs. Next year, make the playoffs. Next year, a bunch of injuries. Next year, sucks. He gets fired. Then Torts comes in. Playoffs. And then it's not until his last season that they finally missed the playoffs under him, under a full season, that he's finally done. And they go with Brad Larson, who's been a part of this organization for well over a decade.
Right.
So, like, there's been continuity within the franchise, and that's a good thing. There's stability. Jarmo is what? I think the 4th longest tenured general manager in the National Hockey League?
Something like that, because I know
there's Doug Wilson, there's David Poile.
David Poile's been around since Nashville's inception.
And Doug Wilson's been around in San Jose for as long as Poile has been. He's been since the 90s.
Really?
He's been for a while, man.
Huh.
So, like, it's crazy. Like, he's definitely in the top 5.
Oh yeah, in terms of longevity, probably.
For teams, I mean, think about it. There's so many good teams in the National Hockey League who've won championships that still don't have their GMs from it. The Penguins have changed their general manager recently.
Oh yeah.
The Capitals have done that.
McClellan's been there a while though.
He's been there for a while, but like they did it during like during their reign of being a really good team.
Right.
The Lightning. Steve Yzerman left.
Yzerman did leave. Well, I mean, Yzerman was going to go home.
Yeah, he was going to go home, which was smart on his part. It was good for him to do. But, like, the point here is, shit, man. I know the Jackets don't have a rich history of success and, they don't have, like, all the playoff wins and accolades and Stanley Cups and stuff like that. But for a team, considering where they were, when they traded Rick Nash in 2012, from that point on, it's unbelievable what they've built in terms of sustainability and just building a legitimate culture.
Oh yeah, like the amount of just, I mean, we've addressed this in multiple episodes, the amount of just growth as a hockey market. for this city has been enormous just in the last really 5 years, let alone a decade.
And it's largely due to the fact that they finally built a decent code. They built a product that was worth watching.
Yeah.
Because even though it wasn't always the most exciting under John Tortorella, it's still fun to win. Winning cures all. And they were winning hockey games.
And we compared John's like early system to Barry Trotz and how he was trying to be like Trotz light.
Mm-hmm. And that's really who he's been his entire career.
Yeah, and I mean, for a while it worked, and now they got to shift things because they have the pieces that didn't fit right under that. Now you got to change a pace, and Lars is doing just that.
Exactly, and I like Lars, and he's a good. From what I've seen so far, I think he's a good coach. I like what he's doing.
Oh yeah, I'm loving
for Lars with this kind of situation to bring it back to Jack Roslovic. You're in a situation where, sure, you want to give him more ice time and put him in positions to succeed because he's a talented player.
25th overall pick.
But he hasn't earned it. And you have to manage that too.
Which is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, but you got to manage it for the guys who have earned it. Sean Corrali has earned his third line minutes. He's earned a spot as the third line center of this team. He was never the third line center in Boston.
Right.
They didn't just give it to him. He earned that.
Boone has definitely earned that first line spot this year, like by leaps and bounds.
Line A, Bjorkstrand has more than earned his time in the top six, basically his entire career with the Blue Jackets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yours is going to Rosie, which is nice. We haven't heard a lot from Rosie in a while, and it was good that he had a nice, couple point night, which was noticeable in the way the game went. Mine is, oh shoot, I lost it for a minute. No, never mind. No, I didn't lose it. It's my dude. It's my guy.
Yeah, he put one in, so.
Come on. And it was electric. Like, Oliver, that shot is just classic Ollie, right?
Yeah. It was a good feed from Roslovic. Got right to him, and it was just a quick shot, bang, back in the net. Beautiful.
So, yeah, Ollie and Rosie. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
So the game itself was something.
It was very back and forth. It was a good game.
6 o'clock start, first of all. I don't know why they moved.
I love that they did it.
I don't know why they moved it back an hour from normal.
I mean,
was it always slated at 6?
Yeah, it's a Sunday game.
Fair enough.
Sunday games you can do at 6. It's easier because typically the Blue Jackets have had, like, recently, just because like my parents had like a season ticket package. We've had several like Sunday games at 6 o'clock. I like it. It's nice and convenient, especially being, in Cleveland and having to make that drive, getting home.
Yeah, and going back into the work week.
So like, I like it. I wish they do more of it, but
matinee games are always nice on a Sunday too. Like for people that could just kind of sit at home.
Yeah, of course.
First period was, it was just. I'm trying to just remember the highlights, honestly.
Because it was very back and forth, and the Blue Jackets got on the board first when Roslovic found Bjorkstrand, and then the Penguins tied it with, I want to say, like 50-some seconds left in the period.
That was Chad Ruedel. Yeah, it was Ruedel. Right along the back along the end boards.
Yeah. It was a real weird play for Elvis. He couldn't really get set, and it hit somebody in front, and it was a weird goal, but
it was very strange.
Not much you can do about it.
Not much you can do about it. It's like
the old adage, man, like, the goals in the first and last minute of a period, those ones kill the most.
Well, something too is like, there are times where you need a save. That's a huge, phrase that gets thrown around at goalies. And
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because you see him.
How are you supposed to expect that? Because that literally came out of almost nowhere.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's tough because like it's such a weird goal, and you'd love a save there, but at the same time, you're also like, God, he's top 37 to 40. Like, give him some fucking help. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
But like, it's that balance of like,
well,
you
the
really
screen
do want to
didn't
save
help
like,
because Gavrikov was literally right in Elvis's face.
I think it might have hit Gavrikov. I think that's who it
That
might
might
have
have
hit
been
on
who
the
it
way.
hit too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's weird and it's hard to judge because like he also had he was stumbling back and he didn't really get set and then it surprised him. And it was just a weird play.
It was very
It's almost one that I just don't pin on anybody, and I'm just like, that's just like, what are you gonna do? It's weird.
That's like, I bowled in high school, right? And one of the first things we learned was whenever you have a bad frame, you have 3 seconds to wipe that from your mind and go on to the next frame. Whenever you have a bad throw, you have 3 seconds. Don't sit on it, get it out of your mind and go to the next throw. Right? That's what that Ruido goal felt like to me.
Yeah.
Because it was just such a weird fluke.
It was. But like I had no complaints with how they played in the first period. Fluke. And it's tied. I mean, like, what are you gonna do?
He made some great saves too. Like that, there was that enormous save on Geno Malkin in the first period. Yeah. Like towards the end, that was just, oh my God. And then getting lucky with some glancing off of his shoulders and stuff.
Yeah. And then in second period.
Second period, Jack scores. Yep. Which was
it was a good play.
He needed that.
He did. He needs. Here's the thing, though. We say that he needed this. This is good. This will help him out, and then he just doesn't do anything
for the next few. Yeah.
So, like, I hope that he does something with this performance. I hope it helps him get him out of his shell. But I'm not gonna be relying on it.
Yeah, either. I don't know if I'm gonna. I mean, it's against probably one of your biggest division rivals. At least
it would have been a nice game to win. Would have been a really nice game to win.
It would have absolutely been a huge game to win. And then the third period, we said this in our text messages, Geno and Sid, what else are you going to do against those two? Could have been like the Sid goal is the one that everybody's complaining about, which understandably so.
I get the frustration. I do. It's the Penguins. You're the team that everybody in this fan base hates the most.
Yeah.
It's, the player that everybody hates the most in this fan base, Sidney Crosby.
Oh, yeah. Doobie was in the crowd.
Yeah, Doobie's in the house. I get it. I understand the frustration. I don't see a problem with the goal.
When I watched
I understand why they challenged it. You're taking the challenge because you are saying there is a higher probability that they're going to call this goal off than there is we're going to score in the final 2 minutes of the game.
Right.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. I think generally speaking that's the right call. I know that the risk is a 2-minute penalty, which effectively kind of ends the game because there's 2:17 left.
Yeah.
But you were saying in that moment, we think there's a higher probability they're going to call this goal off than we're going to score. So you're taking the higher probability because it doesn't matter if it's 3-3 or 2-2. All that matters is it's tied. You're trying to go to overtime and get a point. You didn't get the call. You live with it. They played well. They played well enough to win.
Geno's tying goal was just a snipe, and it was just like, oh my God, that's just what Evgeny Malkin does.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta sit back and be like, fucking hell, man. It's Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby. Sometimes you play well and you lose to those guys. They're really good.
Yeah.
Like I'm not that pressed over it. I'm not. I liked how they played. Sometimes you're just
Brian Rust too. Like just being
Brian Rust is amazing. They're Chris Letang. They're an unbelievable team, unbelievable organization. There's no shame in losing to them.
They're, you've said it yourself. They're probably the most model organization this league has right now.
League. Yeah, I think so. You look at an organization and you want to, you see, how do you want your organization run? I want my organization to be run like the Penguins.
Just top down.
Mm-hmm. I love the way the Blue Jackets are run right now. They're so like the Penguins.
Like we love our executives, we love our coaches, we love our players. Obviously, I mean, we're fans.
I love the culture they've built.
But
culture, you know what? Also, I also like players who are as good as Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and Brian Rust and Chris Letang and Jake Gensel and Tristan Jarry. Like they've built it so well.
Now I will say, I want to give kudos to Casey DeSmith for how he played late.
Casey, it's weird. He's had a terrible season.
Yeah.
But God, his 2 starts against the Blue Jackets, he was unbelievable. How funny is that? Of course.
Yeah, of course. He turns into Marc-Andre Fleury whenever they play Columbus, right?
He's not a bad goalie. I don't think he's a bad goalie. He's had some really good seasons with the Penguins. He's just having a bad year. But God, he was really good. Because you go into that game being like they're in the second of a back-to-back. Tristan Jarry just had a shutout, and now they're going to go to their backup, who's not having a good season.
They lost 6-1 the night before.
Yeah, you really, really hope that you'd be able to take that game. But like I said, sometimes things just happen. Sometimes Evgeny Malkin goes off. Sometimes Sidney Crosby scores late. Sometimes Casey DeSmith, despite having a bad season, who's generally
turns into George Vezina,
plays well. It just happens. I have no complaints with how they played. I have no complaints with Brad Larson calling the challenge on the goal with 2:17 left in the game. No issues with it at all. Sometimes you can play well enough to win, be okay with everything that happens. And guess what, Jake? It's hockey. Sometimes you lose.
Yeah, sometimes bad bounces happen. Sometimes bad calls don't go your way. I will say I did have a gripe watching the highlights when I saw Sid's goal. Just a little bit. Like I didn't have too much of an issue with it, but at the same time, I was just watching it and going, I was very back and forth on it.
The problem is you gotta take the emotion out of it. If I'm watching another game and it's between, say, like the Sharks and the Oilers, and that happens, I don't have an issue with it.
Right.
If I can take emotion out of it and I don't have an issue with it, then I'm just gonna take myself out of it as a fan. Because
I think I was definitely
if it was bad enough that I'm just like, oh, that's just objectively a bad call. Yeah, I'd be pissed. But I really don't have an issue with it as a call.
Yeah, I think I had my fan mode on when I was watching the highlights earlier this morning.
It's hard to turn it off. It's hard to turn it off, but I think they called that the way that I would have wanted them to call it.
Yes,
because if the Blue Jackets had scored that goal, of course you want it to be a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Blue Jackets scored it, I would expect it to be a goal.
Right.
But no, I thought they played well. They lost. It sucks. But I liked how they played. And like we said, going into this stretch, it's not so much just in terms of the results. I want to see how they play. And even though they didn't win, I liked what I saw from the game. I did.
Just play well, develop the players. That's really the biggest, we've said it from the beginning of the season. That's the biggest takeaway we want is play well and individually develop.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, like, it's nice. We talk about a model organization like the Pittsburgh Penguins and a really good hockey team. They just went toe-to-toe with them.
Yeah.
Nobody controlled that game. We played well, but the Penguins never had control of that game until late.
Fairly late, yeah.
So like, it just happens. I have no issue with it.
It's hockey.
It's not 2 points. It's not 2 points in the standings, but I like
sport of bounces.
Yep.
Sport of bounces. I do like that first of all, I like that you and I are wearing like matching sweaters. This is kind of cool. And there's a reason why I'm wearing my hat today, which is because as of recording this today, who knows when this is going to go out, probably post game again. Thanks, YouTube.
Yeah.
They play the Devils today, and our first guest is a buddy of Jay's, who's a
Yep.
Devils writer.
Yep. Race for the Hockey Raiders. How do we get this to him?
Well, let's go ahead and pause and we'll bring him on.
All right.
Welcome to the show, Alex.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Good to talk. Good to come on and talk about some Devils and the Blue Jackets ahead of tonight's game.
Well,
yeah,
again,
man.
like we said, like we usually say, thanks to YouTube, it might be going out post game.
Yeah, because it takes forever to render and stuff.
Of course,
Yeah, Premiere and YouTube and everything like that. It's just fun.
Yeah,
We still have fun with it. Yeah, what can you do? Alex Chauvancy, right?
Yeah.
Close enough? Good enough?
Yeah, it's good. It's good enough, honestly. If you come within, what I hear usually, then it's fine. I got Chauvancy once. I was like, dude, can you read? That's not my last name.
Oh, beautiful. No, yeah. I always get that too, where it's like, is it Geringer? One of my former bosses, even just as a joke, would go Geringer.
Geringer.
That's my favorite when people call me Ashton, and I'm just like, dog, it's not hard. You can literally just separate the two words in it.
That's what I had to do for our show's intro, dude. I had to, when I was corresponding with the guy, I had to say, okay, this is how you pronounce it for your name.
I can't believe I have to explain to people how to pronounce it.
Yeah, you definitely have the easiest last name of the three of us here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and people still get it wrong sometimes. I'm just like, why?
It's just like, don't overthink it.
Yeah,
it's
for real.
Right there.
Yeah.
But we got some questions for you, man.
We got a lot of good topics to go around. Mostly about previewing the game and comparing the seasons that these teams are having.
And then some future stuff for the Devils and where they go from here, because there's a lot of uncertainty around them.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So we're okay. Do they have lineups for you guys tonight?
Not yet, but I would assume they're just probably going to run the same exact lineup that they did last night against the Canucks, with maybe just John Gillies starting instead of Nico Dawes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so I wouldn't think, considering they won 7-2 last night, I don't really think there's going to be too many changes.
So Gillies and Elvis. Okay.
Yeah, probably. I would assume. I don't think they're going to go back to back with Nico Dawes yet.
Yeah, he's a young kid, so I don't know if they want to do that. We can talk about that. I mean, you beat the shit out of the Canucks. That was pretty fun.
That was really wild.
Yeah, I mean, that game was never even close. They just got out to a quick 3-0 lead in the first period, and they didn't even look back after that. I mean, the Devils have been scoring a lot of goals, I guess about the last month. When I was doing the write-up for last night's game, I went back and looked at their last 7 games or something like that. And they've scored 37 goals in their last 7 games, which is just over 5 goals a game.
Yeah.
So they're scoring a lot right now. It's just that goaltending has really been an issue when Nico Dawes is not starting, apparently.
Yeah, because we saw that and you tweeted it, and I'm a huge Jay Fresh guy too, obviously.
Yeah.
But you got 3 guys who are in the bottom 10 in goals saved above expected. It's John Gillies, Mackenzie Blackwood, and Akira Schmid, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Akira is, Yeah,
I mean, he's just a prospect, and he's having a really good season down in Utica. He's got a .930 save percentage for the Comets. So and he's making the jump from the USHL to pros, which is a really big jump. The USHL is it's not really a good junior league. So I'm not really concerned about him right now, but Mackenzie Blackwood being as bad as he was to start the season wasn't really expecting that, to be honest, even though last season he wasn't great either.
And wasn't he also going through a whole vaccination thing too?
Yeah, there was. Last year he got COVID really bad. When he came back from that, he was just not the same goalie, and then he had off-season heel surgery. Apparently that's why his play was suffering at the beginning of the season, and is why he's not in the lineup right now. He's still dealing with pain from that. And yeah, and then before the season started, he was like one of 3 players in the NHL or whatever, how many it was, that didn't get vaccinated.
Yeah, it was like
apparently,
it was him and Tyler Bertuzzi, and then like one more guy.
Yeah, Zach Ronaldo. I think,
oh, that's right. It was Ronaldo.
Right?
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, he's on the. Is he still with the Blue Jackets organization?
So he's still technically on payroll in the Blue Jackets organization because they decided to honor his contract, but he's not with the Monsters.
Oh, he's not even with the Monsters. Okay.
Yeah, so like his contract is still around, but
checks doing nothing.
All right, well, that's a pretty good deal. Get paid to do nothing, I guess. So
I'd love to do it.
I wish.
But yeah, that would be great. Who wouldn't want that?
I mean,
yeah. As for Blackwood, I mean, he was in his. The thing with Blackwood is apparently, and Tom Fitzgerald confirmed it on. I think it was like Darren Dredger's podcast before the season started. That like Blackwood was in his. He was in his seat to get his vaccination shot, and then he just got up and left. And that's how that whole thing like went down. And he eventually ended up getting vaccinated before they had their first road trip up in Canada when they still had all the restrictions. But yeah, that was a whole mess. And then after that, I guess his heel started acting up again, and his play just bottomed out. Now he's been one of the worst. You know, I don't know if he's going to play again this season. Remains to be seen. But yeah, he's had another rough go of it.
Yeah, that's
the goaltending situation is interesting because you know we talked about Blackwood and like his vaccination status as well as the heel injury, but then you also got Jonathan Bernier, who you signed to a 2-year deal, expecting him to be the backup, but not like your typical backup. You know, starting like maybe 20.
Decent 1B. You guys are really going through a carousel.
Yeah.
Like honestly.
And then he's out for the season, so like it's thrown a huge monkey wrench in the thing. So Akira Schmid, we mentioned, has not seen really much success at the NHL level, but again, he's just a kid, and he's doing well in the minors, so that's not a huge deal. But where the goaltending goes for the future for the Devils is incredibly interesting to me, because, like, what do you do with Blackwood?
Yeah, I honestly I have no idea, because he's under contract next season too, before he becomes an RFA in 2023.
Oh, he's only an RFA. Okay.
Yeah, and Bernier is under contract next season too, but like he had the same injury, I guess, that Tuukka Rask and I guess Corey Schneider had too, the same hip kind of thing that they had surgery for. So like I don't know what his status is going to be. Is he going to be able to come back for next season? I mean, he looked good to start the season, and then I think that he had been dealing with the hip injury since training camp, and he looked good for like, I don't know, maybe the first month of the season, and then it was kind of pretty obvious the hip was imploding, and that was that there. So,
so
yeah, it's a tough situation.
Yeah,
that's pretty tough for sure.
Yeah,
the team as a whole really hasn't been doing that great either, and I mean, we in our like Metro prediction, like towards the beginning of the season, you know, said that Columbus and New Jersey were kind of going to be right there at the bottom. Just both of them kind of fighting for that last spot. We didn't expect the Devils to still be this bad. We thought they were going to take at least somewhat of a step, at least in terms of just watching them play, because they get Dougie Hamilton. They've had Mackenzie Blackwood, hoping for a step from Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. And I mean,
and they got Ryan Graves.
They got Ryan Graves.
I think Hischier is really solid. It's unfortunate the goaltending's just been the biggest issue, because Dougie, for the most part, has been as advertised.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I actually don't think the Devils are that bad. It's just that their goaltending has been so awful this season that I think it's cost them. Like, who was it? I think it was you guys. I don't know if you guys follow Shayna Goldman on Twitter. She writes for The Athletic. She does the Rangers and Devils stuff, and she said, I think like a week or two ago, that if the Devils just had league average goaltending, they'd probably have 6 more wins than they do now. So they'd be like in the same spot Columbus is right now, if that was the case.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely how we feel about specifically Jonas Corposalo, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we know Elvis is our guy. I'm assuming you guys, you know, Tom Fitzgerald would say that Blackwood is your guy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's just like, how do you sort out the backup issue? And then
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, with the way Gillies has played this season and the way Dawes has looked his last two starts, that like Nico Dawes really has like a chance to kind of put himself in the conversation to be part of the NHL plans for the next season. The Devils still have like I think 29 games remaining if you include tonight. And with the way, I mean, the two goalies have played, he's probably going to get a lot of the starts going forward. And I mean, I mean, that's been the biggest problem for the Devils this season. It's like these games where they score like 5 or 6 goals, but they give up 6 or 7 because their goaltending is not holding up. And like it's frustrating because you have like Jack Hughes is on pace for 94 points in 82 games. Like he's been insane. He has 10. Yeah, he's got 10 points in his last 4 games. I mean, he's been just ridiculously good this season.
No wonder he joined Zach in Vegas, eh?
Yeah, and just for Brad's having a ridiculous season. Nico Hischier been really good. Yeah,
is maybe the most underrated player in the league.
Yeah, and he's an RFA this summer, so big payday coming for him.
That's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is what kind of a deal would you expect for a guy like him?
So I think the Devils actually have some leverage because they gave Jack Hughes an 8-year, $64 million contract. So they could be like, hey, Jack Hughes' cap hits $8 million. You're not getting more than him. So
that's what I thought too. And he's making 7.25.
Yeah. So I think, I would say he's probably going to come in like just under Jack and Nico. I would say probably $7 million a year would be pretty fair for him, given the contracts they've given out for Jack and Nico. So
for Jesper, I mean, he deserves 6.5 to 7. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where he'll end up. Right. And like with the season he's had, I mean, he deserves it. He's on pace for like 78 points, I think, and like 29 goals or something stupid like that. So
the thing with him is like when you look at the cap hits, but also the contracts they're giving out. That was going to be my next question: is do you see it being a long-term contract? Because they've done that. They committed to Hischier, they committed to Jack Hughes. Would they do that or go with a bridge deal?
They bridged him last time around 2 years ago. I think this time they got to lock him up long-term, go 8 years because he's I think he'd be 24 this summer. So if you lock him up 8 years, you have him on the contract through his best years of hockey. So I think if they bridge him again, I think that'd be a huge mistake. They got to do the whole 8-year, whatever, $7 million a year, something like that.
Tom's definitely like Fitzgerald's done a really nice job in negotiating, making sure that those bridges happen first, and then like knowing where they're at in their primes, being able to lock these guys up.
Yeah, he's done a really good job managing their cap situation. Even Ray Shero, I mean, that didn't on the whole, it didn't work out, but Shero was really good at managing the salary cap as well. Fitzgerald just kind of like walked into a really good cap situation because of the way Shero dealt with that kind of stuff. So, and then PK Subban's contract is off the books after the season too, so they're going to have a lot of cap space to work with.
How like the whole PK experiment just kind of has been very up and down. Like, because I mean, you just mentioned the guy, and obviously we know he's a great off ice guy. He's like one of the biggest personalities this sport has. Is it just about that time in his career where it's just he's gonna start winding down, or do you see another resurgence coming?
He's been all right this season. I think. I mean, his first 2 seasons in New Jersey were really not up to standard, given his previous Norris caliber seasons. But he's been all right this season in New Jersey. He's just kind of like a third pair offensive defenseman. So I think that's what he is at this point. Like the defensive game's kind of pretty much dried up with him at this point. So he's still got like stuff left in the tank, and I think they're gonna end up trading him here in the next couple of weeks before the deadline hits. I think like a team that needs like a right-handed shot that needs some offense on the back end could probably use him. It's just the money situation's a little tricky. The Devils would have to retain at 50% for that to even work. So
then who else do you see being moved for this deadline then? Because that was really one thing I wanted to hit with you is their deadline moves. We talked about our deadline possibilities. We want to hear about yours.
Yeah, so the Devils are like in a really interesting spot for the deadline because like they don't really have any rentals besides Jimmy Vesey and Subban. Like those are the only guys who are on expiring contracts.
That's what I noticed when I looked at your cap friendly is you have like no guys who are UFAs. You just have like a couple.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. It's just Subban and VC. So like they'll sell them, but like, I
Other
don't
than
know.
that, just kind of stay the course, I guess.
No, I'm not even sure about that. I think they could be buyers too, because like we've seen Frank Saravalli has been mentioning that that they're in on Brock Besser, and then Friedman said a couple of weeks before that Connor Garland, and then Saravalli also said Brandon Hagel in Chicago. So like they're definitely looking for long-term pieces that they can add, like that just not guys who are on expiring contracts because that makes no sense for them. And then who was it last week? Was it Pierre LeBrun said they're aggressively shopping for a goaltender. I think that would also be a long-term piece, but I don't know. I think that's going to be tough to find before the deadline because like what team?
I think we all kind of saw that though. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. But like the thing is, like, I don't know what team is going to give up like a good goaltender, especially if they're in like a playoff race, before the deadline. So I think that's something they're going to have to address in the offseason. I would be surprised if they found a long-term, solution before the deadline.
I have two players in mind that I have questions about.
Yeah.
So one is a guy who's an RFA, but he has arbitration rights. That's Miles Wood.
Right.
Where do you see them going with that? Do you see them just going into this offseason with the plan of just going into arbitration or maybe coming to some sort of agreement with him? Or is he a guy that they could potentially deal at the deadline?
So I think they could deal him, but he hasn't played the whole season because of hip surgery.
He hasn't
he hasn't played a game yet. So I think the only path there I see is him accepting his qualifying offer. Because there's not really anything else you could do, I think. So he'll just take his qualifying offer this summer, go on a 1-year deal, and then Devils will have to decide what to do with him next season, I think.
Yeah,
I don't think they want to move him.
He started the season hurt, right? It was him and Wedgwood and who else? It was one more. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, Jack Hughes did get injured in like the second game of the season, so I guess you could throw him in there too. But yeah, like Miles got injured in a preseason game against the Capitals, I think. And he has it went from bumps and bruises to hip surgery. I'm not really sure how he went for that, but yeah. So he's he's skating on his own, but I still think he's probably another month away if he even gets back this season.
Okay. So and then the other guy that I'm interested in, this is a guy that's I can tell that Devils fan base is kind of torn on. What does the future hold for Damon Severson?
I knew this was going to be about Damon
this
Severson.
Guy. Yep.
Because I think you and I are kind of, pro Severson, but a lot of Devils fans.
For sure. Yeah. So, I know I've seen some divisive players in my time writing about the Devils, and I'm not sure if there's been one player who's more divisive than Damon Severson. I guess maybe you could argue Pavel Zacha would be the other, but
he's another guy we're going to ask about.
Yeah. Severson. So like the thing with Severson is he is a really good he can play defense, but when he makes a mistake defensively, you're going to notice it.
Huge mistake.
Yeah, it's bad. Like that 2-on-1. I don't know if you saw that 2-on-1 against the Maple Leafs a couple of weeks ago.
There's a whole litany of Maple Leafs issues with Damon. Like, whoa.
Yeah. So like the other night he made an insane like stretch pass to Jesper Bratt against the Blackhawks that Bratt scored on to make it I think it was either he made it a 4-3 game. So like he has offensive ability. He's almost as good.
Let me just mention that one of my favorite calls from this season is from Kanj just screaming Jesper Bratt.
Which game was that?
That was a couple of weeks ago, I want to say. Where it was a huge, I think it was a game winner too, and he just screams his name at the top of it. He's so enthusiastic, and I love it.
Yeah, Kanji's awesome. I mean, he follows me on Twitter, and that was pretty cool. But just throwing that out there. But yeah, he's really chill. I like him as a play-by-play.
Name drop.
But as I was saying about Severson before, like he can move the puck really well. Like I think after Dougie Hamilton, he's even on par with Dougie Hamilton when it comes to just offensive ability and being able to move the puck. He's got I guess like a year and a half on his contract left from now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if the Devils want to sign him to a long-term deal because once that extension kicks in, he'll be 29 years old. So we'll see what they do with him at the deadline. I'm not really sure. I think he would have to take like an offer they can't refuse, like Toronto being like, I don't know, he was a first-round pick. Timothy Liljegren and then like a prospect, I don't know, like Nick Abruzzese or something like that. I think it would take like that kind of deal for the Devils.
Liljegren, maybe,
now,
yeah.
So.
It's funny because I've heard all those rumors left and right, and just knowing from a couple of my best friends being Leaf fans, knowing the history of Damon Severson and Toronto games is just like, it's really funny to me that Dudis is looking at him.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, I think any fan base that he goes to, like, just like contender wise, I don't think it would be much different than how Devils fans view him. I mean, Devils fans, I don't know, like sometimes they make him like sound like the worst defenseman in the league, and I'm like, have you watched like Rasmus Ristolainen or something like that? Like, come on, really relax. Yeah,
I think Jay's pretty familiar with Risto.
Yeah.
The thing that bothers me most though about him, and you and I, like, we've talked a bit about analytics and stuff like that. We're pro analytics. We're into them.
I mean, this one's at least pro analytics.
Yeah, people freak out about him, just be like, oh, only the analytics nerds who like Damon Severson. And at the same time, I'm like, you don't even have to like analytics to like a guy who is a 6'2" defenseman, who is a right-hand shot, who's a good puck moving defenseman. He's mobile.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like you said, like his defense is pretty good.
Yeah. It's just when he makes the mistake,
But like, he doesn't make a lot of them.
Yeah, no, he really. I mean, he was playing top pair minutes with Jonas Siegenthaler before Dougie. While Dougie was out with a broken
Jonas
jaw.
Siegenthaler.
And they were really. Siegenthaler has been amazing this season. That was one Tom Fitzgerald's, I guess, like shrewdest moves. He's kind of just like turned into the top pair defensive defenseman out of nowhere, and he's playing with Hamilton on the top.
Good quiet move, and it just really paid off.
Because
and he's
just in Washington, and you could see like sure the minutes were kind of sheltered, but he was putting up good defensive results. So you move what I think it was a 3rd round pick to get this guy.
Yeah, that's it.
More time, and he just flourishes because he wasn't going to get that opportunity in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, their blue line was stacked, and the Devils clearly had a need, heading into the last offseason to kind of just revamp their blue line. Dougie, Jonas, and then I
Graves.
feel like I'm forgetting someone. Right, Ryan Graves, who's been pretty solid too.
He's been good offensively this season.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny because I think when the Devils acquired Graves, I think the expectation was he would be like the kind of defensive defenseman who would play alongside Hamilton a lot, which he was for a good part of the first half of the season before Dougie got hurt. But now Jonas Siegenthaler comes out of nowhere, and he's got like some of the best defensive numbers in the league. And now it's kind of reversed. Like Ryan Graves is a little bit of like a two-way defenseman alongside Severson on the second pair. So it's funny how
it's good for Ryan's development.
For sure. The guy can move for someone who's like 6'5", 220.
We saw that in Colorado a lot.
Yeah, he's good.
Well, in Colorado, he's putting a pretty solid defensive number. So look at his charts, like they've gone, there's one going up and going down. So his defensive numbers this year aren't as good as they were with Colorado, but his offensive numbers are significantly better than they were in Colorado, and as a result, his WAR percentage has shot up.
Yeah,
so
I think his I forgot, I had looked this up before I started here, but I'm pretty sure he's on a career high for points, on pace for a career high in points this season. So, and this is with him having missed like a few games for COVID and some injuries here and there. So, but yeah, I mean, the Devils, like when I look at them, especially if Nico Dawes kind of keeps putting up some of these good starts, I just kind of like convince myself that like the only thing this team really needs is just to like overhaul goaltending, because I mean, you got Jack Hughes and Jeff Brad who are point per game players, and you got some other good places like Sharon Govich has really come along lately.
Yeah, Sharon Govich.
I want to ask something about Sharon Govich here in a little bit. So just
go for it. I'm all about Sharon Govich. She's one of my favorite players.
Well, I mean, we love watching him play too, and guys like Kuokkanen and some of the more under the radar bottom six guys like that. But it's a bit of a tougher subject, if you don't mind, because I know what's going on in the world, right? Yeah, what's going on in the world right now. We're not going to get into like, you people know what it is with Russia and the Ukraine. Columbus has 3 Russians on their roster with Tarasov and Gavrikov and Chinnikov, and then Sharon Govich is Belarusian.
Right.
And the NHL has severed ties with a lot of like advertising with Russia and all this kind of stuff. And then the IIHF is basically banning Russia and Belarus from World Championships and World Juniors for the next like couple of years.
Yep.
So how do you think that's going to affect, probably all four of these guys?
So I mean, for Sharangovich, is like the Belarusian national team is not like really that good, so he would be playing on any competition. So he's gonna miss out on any international competition that they were eligible to play in. But like, that's a tough one. Like, as long as these players, like, I think stay in the States during the off season, they'll be fine. As far as like international competitions, I don't know about like Tarasov and Chinakov and who was the other one that you mentioned for Gavrikov, right?
Gavrikov, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think being banned from like these international competitions is probably a bigger deal for players like who are on these teams regularly, like Ovechkin or Panarin. Some of these guys would even like go to the World Championships. I'm not even like talking about Olympics and stuff.
So like Gavi could probably be affected.
Yeah, if these guys were, they'd probably miss out on like the World Championships. I think that'd be the most notable tournament, unless the NHL decides to have a World Cup in the next couple of years.
And they're thinking about it. They're thinking about doing it for what, 2024?
Yeah, that's what I thought I had seen when they said they weren't going to the Olympics. So that could be something that affects them as well. Time will tell there, but as long as they stay stateside, I don't really think like anything should affect them when it comes to being able to play for the Blue Jackets or the Devils.
It's funny because like my original thoughts on forming that question centered around, oh my gosh, how many players from these countries do these teams have? And it was really only those four. So I was like, okay, it's not big a deal to ask.
Yeah, especially Belarus. It's like they've never really been like a hockey powerhouse. Like there was Mikhail Grabovski like way back in the day, but
Bravo, great.
Yeah, but like other than that, like Sharangovich is definitely the best player from Belarus in the NHL right now, at least that I can think of off the top of my head. So
I'm pretty sure the only one who's also there is the one kid from Washington, Alexei Protas.
Oh, is he from Belarus? Belarus also?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
those are the only two, though.
Yeah, there are not many to begin with.
Yeah.
No. But then, knowing that the league is littered with Russian players, we were just like, I thought you guys had a couple more. And then I looked at the roster and I was like, oh, Kuokkanen and some of those other guys, they're finished. Never mind.
Yeah. I mean, Gusev is back in the KHL. And,
right.
They draft a lot of Russians. I think the Devils, that's maybe like a little more concern for them. Like, if they want to bring over,
what are they gonna do about that?
Yeah, if they want to bring over Shakir Mukhamadullin and like Arseny Gritsyuk from the KHL for next season, that would probably be a little bit of a tricky issue for them.
We have Voronkov and Marchenko waiting in the wings.
Yeah, so that'll be something that I'm sure that the Devils in the NHL and I guess the KHL will have to try to kind of weed out this offseason.
So there's a guy that you mentioned that I think is interesting because I wanted to ask a little bit about the prospect pool. So we obviously know about guys like Alexander Holtz and Luke Hughes. They're going to be amazing.
Oh, yeah. They're going to be fine.
Yeah, they're good.
Some other guys, like you mentioned, Shakir Mukhamadullin, Nolan Foote, Samu Salmonen, Kevin Ball, and Chase Stillman, I think, are very interesting prospects. Can you talk a little bit about those guys?
Kevin Ball was in the Taylor Hall trade, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah, he was like really the centerpiece of that trade. Although you look 3 years from now, and the Devils actually ended up getting Dawson Mercer and Jonas Siegenthaler out of that trade. So
I freaking love Dawson Mercer.
It worked out. I think I wrote about this when I did like my mid-season top 10 Devils prospects, like at the beginning of February. I haven't seen a Devils prospect as unique as Shakir. Just like some of the stuff he does as a defenseman, you don't really ever see from a defenseman. Who was it that made the tableau? I think it was Lassi Alanen, who like covers like the Finnish prospects in like some European leagues. And if you look at the Shakir's tableau, it's just like he's a beast in transition. Like he does like he's like limited by minutes. We got that notification.
Okay, no,
Zoom.
yeah. We'll make it quick. We'll make it quick.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, right. Shakir. Yeah, he's just like, he does kind of things that you would expect from a forward when it comes to zone entries and zone exits and transition. It just got me like, he apparently was a forward coming up, and then he converted to defenseman, and he was a little
very
older.
off the board pick too. Like, wasn't it the same draft with Chinny? Like, they were both really kind of off the board picks.
Yeah, it's the 2020 draft.
Yes.
Whichever, okay. So yeah, I'm pretty sure actually Chinny went like one pick before.
Chinny was 21st.
Okay, so he went a pick after Shakir. Okay, so yeah, it was 20 and 21st.
Like, why are these guys picked? Because he was a projected second, third round guy.
Yeah,
Shakir, yeah,
it'd be like a sixth or something.
Yeah, I remember when Kekalainen got up there on Zoom and was like, "We're picking Yegor Chinakov," and I was like, because I was familiar with them, and like, every like ranking I had looked at him as like a 6th or 7th round pick, and I'm like, they just did what with the 21st pick?
And then you look at him now, and it's like, how about it?
Yeah, so it kind of worked out, but yeah, that was Shakir is really like just an interesting prospect. I don't know what he'll be in the NHL. Yeah, he's gonna be like, I can't even really think like of an NHL comparison to him, because he's just like so unique, like offensively, like he's almost like a center, like the way he moves the puck up the ice. It's really super interesting.
I just want to get a jersey for the name, honestly.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that name, if it even fits on a jersey, honestly.
Right.
Just looking for like how he plays, you talk about his ability in the neutral zone, his transitions, his puck moving ability. It's hard to come up with a comparison because we don't know how good he's going to be defensively in the National Hockey League. We've seen that's a little bit of a weakness in his game.
Yeah.
Is there a little bit of Shane Goss to spare there, or is that still a weird comparison?
Like, I don't think that's a bad comparison. It's just like the only difference is like Shane's like a little guy, isn't he? He's like 5'10" or something like that.
Yeah, I want to say he's 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, Shakir's a big dude. He's 6'4", 200 pounds.
Yeah, he's big enough.
Yeah, so like I don't even like. I guess one prospect from his class would be kind of like similar would be William Vollinder, who the Detroit Red Wings drafted. Okay. They're kind of like similar makeup, but like that's just another prospect. Like I can't even really think of an NHL player right now.
Like 6'6". He's
yeah. So like I don't know. And then I mentioned Gritsuk before. He just kind of like came out of nowhere this season. Been one of like the best U21 players in the KHL. So yeah, I mean he's really exciting prospect. And then Jay mentioned Nolan Foote before. He's kind of having a down season this year and with the comments. I wouldn't say he's been bad. It's just kind of maybe stagnated a little bit.
Fair enough.
But yeah, they still got a pretty deep prospect pool, even with like a guy like Dawson Mercer graduating to being a full-time NHLer at this point.
He's been awesome.
Yeah,
watching him play.
Prospect anymore. I mean, he's like, what is he, 4th on your team in scoring?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to be. He's got 31 points in like 58 games. So yeah, he's got to be somewhere up there.
That's not a prospect.
Not anymore.
Yeah, and now they got him on the wing with Hughes and Sharangovich the last few games, which I'm assuming you'll be seeing that tonight again. So
probably, yeah.
Do you like him more as a winger, or do you like him at center?
It's a good question. I think in the long term, the Devils are going to want to play like him in the top 6, and that's going to have to come on the wing because he'll never overtake Nico or Jack Hughes as top 2 centers.
Yeah.
And Jesper Boquist has been really good as their 3rd line center for like the last month. Right. So now they can move Mercer to the wing a lot easier. But I'm not sure like if he's better at wing or at center yet. I think he's been putting up points since moving to the wing with Hughes and Sharangovich, but like some of his 5-on-5 numbers have just been a bit of a mixed bag. But he's such a good player that I think he just maybe needs some time to adjust, getting more comfortable on the wing. And it's funny, actually, he said last night after the Canucks game that, because someone asked him the same question in the media, it was like, do you prefer playing center or right wing? And he said in Lindy Ruff's system, there's really no difference. It's kind of like a positionless system for the forwards. So, which I thought was kind of interesting because he's far from the first player who's said that about Lindy Ruff's system. So.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen that a lot with us too, where it's like we can't decide whether we want to put you at center or on the wing because we have a lot of natural centers, and it's hard for us to fit everyone in a log jam. And
yeah,
we're seeing that right now with Jack Roslovic, where we don't know what he is. We don't know if he's the center. We don't know if
and
he's
Texier whenever he gets back.
Same with Alexander Texier, and we're not sure what the future is for either of these guys. There's some inconsistency there, so it's interesting.
Max,
I thought that I personally like Mercer a little bit more on the wing, so I agree with you there. Specifically if you're putting him in the top 6. So I just thought it would be interesting to ask.
Now I know we got to wrap this up because of time. This, because I don't know how much time is left after that notification popped up. I don't know. Yeah. So
it's unlimited. We're fine on time.
Oh, are we unlimited now?
We are? Okay.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay.
Well, let's go as long as we want then.
I do want to ask this though, because this has been on my mind since we booked you. How did you become a writer for the Devils on the Hockey Writers? What was your whole trajectory into getting into this? Because, Jay's a journalism student. I went to school for film and media production with a focus in like directing and writing. Just cool. Trying to get us. Yeah, it was fun. A little bit of advice on like people who want to get into writing and just getting out there more, honestly. Especially in a time like this.
Yeah, so I went to school for political science. I was a political science major. Had nothing to do with sports in college writing. Didn't even write about sports for my college because it was a kind of a small D3 school that didn't really have a very good athletic program. So I was like, not really worth my time. So when I graduated college, I started just blogging for fun with a Devils blog called Devils Army Blog. They have a pretty good following on Twitter. If you want to follow them for more Devils news, they got like 5,000 followers or something around there. That's how I got started. I wrote there for, I want to say like about 2.5 years. Then I joined the Hockey Writers in 2018. I think January 2018. So I've been with them a little bit over 4 years now.
Isn't that about the same time frame as Mark J? Like he's been with the Hockey Writers for a while. Yeah.
Mark Scheig.
Yes, he's our guy. Yeah. He's our dude.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's not like he's not the leader at the Hockey Writers, but he's in charge of getting credentials and stuff, and like he has a huge voice and say and stuff, and he's really like easy to communicate with if you ever have like a question or something like that. He's just really good. He sets up like these career nights for us too with
perfect.
Like different like Blue Jackets writers. We had Jeff Svoboda. Sorry,
our insider. Yeah, Svo
yeah, he was one of our he was a guest once, and he had some like really good advice for us too. But yeah, like my path was like the Hockey Writers, and what I do now with Todd Cordell's website, Infernal Access, is just like part-time pay and stuff like that. But like I had no experience writing about hockey or sports coming out of school. I wrote for like my school paper in high school, and my high school had like an insane athletic department. So I think I actually talked about with Jay about this before, because you went to St. Edward's, right?
Yep. Cleveland, Ohio, baby.
Yeah, I went to Bergen Catholic, which is like kind of the equivalent of St. Edward's here in Jersey. So, but like, yeah, that was like my only previous like sports writing experience was back in high school. So like my advice would be like, if you didn't do it in college, like it doesn't matter. You could still find a path for you, because if you're good at it and like you really want to put the time and effort and like just devote, you got to devote the hours to it. Like that's what I've heard like a lot in my time at the Hockey Writers. Like the games are late at night, but like you have to do it. Like you got to stay up at late and write and stuff like that. And like if you show that like you're dedicated and you're devoted to the work and like you really have a passion for it, like it doesn't matter what you went to school for or whatever like that. Like they'll pick up on it. Like you'll get noticed eventually. So
be passionate and turn nocturnal, right?
Pretty much, honestly. Like that's I mean, maybe not necessarily turning nocturnal. I mean, that would help. But like if you're passionate about it, people will pick up on it. It's, even if like you weren't, if that's not what you went to school for, it doesn't matter. Like what your diploma says doesn't mean that's what you have to do with the rest of your life. So
Exactly.
That's very fair. That's honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
I know so many people that have a certain degree and completely shift like later on. I'm just trying to make mine now because I just finished, like, I graduated summer of 20. So I'm like, oh,
yeah, that was a rough time.
it was a tough
If
time.
you're a
Yeah.
graduating student. Yeah, I mean, even now, it's still, we're just kind of like
Yeah.
getting back past the pandemic. So, but yeah, I mean, just just keep plugging away. That's my best thing. Like, if you're consistent with your writing and your coverage of whatever team you're a fan of, people will pick up on it eventually. Like when I started at the Hockey Writers, I think I went, like, it took me like, I got like 20, I'm not trying to like brag or anything like that. Like, I didn't have, like, I got 20. No, absolutely not. Like, I don't, like, I have 2,600 followers now, but it took me like 2 years to like start getting a following before like people started noticing. Like it can get frustrating at first. Like you're putting all the work in, and like you're writing, maybe a couple times a week or whatever, and you're not really gaining a following. And you're like, well, is this really worth my time? But like, if you stick with it and you're patient, like for me, like there was definitely times where I wavered, like maybe a year and a half into the Hockey Writers, where I was just kind of like, I don't know, is this really worth my time? Like, I'm not really building up a following or like that, and like the money wasn't worth it at the time, but like I stuck with it, and now I'm in a pretty good place. I'm really happy where I've gotten with at this point, and I feel like it keeps growing. So like, if you ever like think you're writing and you just feel like, well, is this not worth my time, is like, it's not going anywhere for me, just like stick with it, because you never know, like it might just take a little longer for you to kind of get where you want to be.
That was really good advice.
Very, very solid. Yes.
Just
like
for anybody, if writers listening.
Yeah, no, that apply. That doesn't apply. Of course, that doesn't apply to just like sports writing. If like there's a certain like whatever field you want to do with your career,
and for really more than just the two of us. Like, honestly, I asked it for the two of us, but at the same time,
yeah, just stick with whatever you're passionate about, whether it's like sports or I don't know, finance or whatever it is you want to do with film. If you want to do that, just stick with it and be patient, because you never know what the payoff could be.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have a question about the Devils. We have a couple more questions.
Yeah, go for it.
You mentioned,
we'll wrap it on Dawson actual Devil stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned what Dawson said about Lindy Ruff as the coach of the Devils, and like his system and everything like that. What's the general consensus about Lindy Ruff as the coach of the team?
So it depends where you look on social media. On Twitter, it can be like, just send this guy into the sun. I see a little bit of that. I see a little bit of that on Facebook too, but surprisingly on Facebook, I see a lot of people like in these Devils groups kind of like defending him, being like, listen, the goaltending is terrible. I'm not really sure, like, you can, like, that's like something out of his control, like Corey Crawford retiring before he plays
Twitter's
a game for the Devils.
Cesspool. So.
Yeah, I've been spending a lot less time on Twitter this year. Since like,
so have I. Honestly, it's been just promoting the show and trying to.
Yeah, I can't just stick on. I check my timeline way less and less these days.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the general consensus on, for me, I think I wouldn't be opposed to bringing him back for a third season, because as we're seeing with these last couple starts from Nico Dawes, it really could just be like the goaltending, like just get goalies and this team is going to take off. Mm-hmm. But like, at the end of the day, this is a results based, league, just like any other sports league. And his record with the Devils isn't good, and they just might, want a fresh start. But there's arguments both ways, and I think that's maybe going to be a little bit of an underrated storyline for the Devils this offseason, what they decide to do with Lindy Ruff.
Would you say that Lindy, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, I got to get better at that again.
That's all right, it's fine.
But like, would you say that the adjustment between Lindy and John Hines or like Nesradine is like night and day, or?
Yeah, 100%. John Hines
is bald.
Yes, there's that. Yeah. He is bald. But yeah, the two systems could not be any different from each other. I think what Hines, during his time with the Devils, he had to adjust a little bit to the flaws of the personnel. and had to play a little bit more of a defensive game. But once the Devils started getting a little faster and younger with guys like Jesper Bratt, Nico Hischier, and Jack Hughes kind of just really being in the league for a little longer. Although I think he got fired during Jack Hughes' first season. So the system was the system was just too slow paced and defensive for the makeup of the roster. And Lindy Ruff is the exact opposite of that. They're playing really fast paced, high event hockey under him, which there's benefits and there's also some cons to that kind of system, because you'll generate a lot, but you'll also give a little bit back the other way. But I think that's how they have to play with guys like Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt, who are just elite skaters. You want to be playing like fast-paced, aggressive kind of offense. Like the only team during this little 7-game stretch that the Devils are on right now, the only team that's generated more expected goals per 60 minutes than them is the Florida Panthers. So
I mean, that's the Panthers.
Yeah, so like they've been really ridiculously good offensively the last like few weeks, and I think that's kind of like how you want to play with a guy like Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt kind of leading the way.
Yeah, they've also got a lot of other talents that we mentioned too on the team that make them interesting.
I will say, coaching wise, Torts and Lars, Jay, very
I think it's
similar.
a fair comparison. There's a significant difference between how John Tortorella ran the Blue Jackets and Brad Larson, how we're going it. We went from this transition of all defense, focused in on defense, structure, everything like that, to we're playing offensively. And we've seen, and the Blue Jackets have seen a significant increase in their offense as well. And, it's, being led by Patrick Laine. And
he's been ridiculous.
NHL's third star of February.
He's been really good.
Boone Jenner's had a great season, Oliver Bjorkstrand. So that it's good to see that kind of transition. So I thought that was interesting for Lindy Ruff. The other thing
sorry, just to cut you off. Oliver Bjorkstrand, resident Devils killer. If he's not scoring a goal tonight,
that's my guy.
Every time I watch a Devils Blue Jackets game, it's Bjorkstrand scoring at least a goal.
I'm always chirping with like, do you know Devil's State of Mind?
Yeah.
I'm always chirping with Nick about Oliver, like back and forth, because he's my guy.
That's Bjorkstrand. I would be shocked, especially if Gillies is starting tonight. I'd be really surprised if Bjorkstrand just score at least one goal. He had 2 goals, I think, the last time they played each other back in Columbus. So
it's weird. It feels like every
coming
team that they just always score against.
Yeah.
But for just looking upcoming, you're very in tune with prospects and stuff like that, which is great. So the Devils, they have their own 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th round draft picks. They also have the Oilers' 4th round pick from the Kulikov trade. They have the Islanders' 4th round pick from the Zajac and Palmieri trade. And they actually also have our 5th round pick. Do you know
the Keith Kincaid?
Yes,
I remember that. That's this year.
I almost forgot about that until Jay brought it up.
That's this year. I didn't know that was this year. I forgot about that.
So you
have wait a minute, Keith Kincaid.
Yeah. Do you expect the Devils to maybe use some of those draft picks to move up at some point and say maybe like the 2nd or 3rd round? Or do you think with where they're at, they might actually trade down, get some more draft picks, or do they just stand pat?
Well, with the way they've drafted, I kind of like just hope they trade down and get like these mid-round picks, because they keep finding gems in like the mid to late rounds. Like Jesper Bratt, 6th round pick.
Yeah.
Arseny Gretzuk, 5th round pick. I'm trying to Nico Dawes, 3rd round pick. So like,
Muhammad Dolan off the board. Like I know he's a 1st rounder, but like totally off the board.
Should have been a 3rd round pick. Well, Chase Stillman was really off the board too. I'm not happy about that pick, but I mean, I would love if they trade down, because they're especially for some reason they just scout Europe really well, and they'll probably find some weird Russian player or Swedish player that I've never heard of that will turn into like a legit NHL prospect in a couple of years. So like,
nice when you get some European scouts that really know what they're doing, right?
Yeah, the Devils have. Yeah, I mean, Castrone was the Blue Jackets director of scouting before he went to join Ray Shero in like 2015 or whatever. So
yep.
But yeah, I do hope they trade down at some point, because like, I don't like the fact that they like make these reaches on some of these later picks, like Shakir and Chase Stillman. Like Chase Stillman shouldn't have been a 1st round pick. Like you should have traded down there if you really wanted him, or you should have taken Salmon in at that pick. It would have been more reasonable than Chase Stillman. So like I do hope they trade down, but I also think they're going to probably try to dangle some of these picks to maybe get some NHL talent on their roster, whether it's now at the trade deadline or during the offseason. So it's probably going to go both ways a little bit.
There's a couple more weeks. They can figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to be interesting at the deadline, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
So outside of goaltending, because we've spent a pretty good time on goaltending.
Yeah.
You've mentioned that the Devils do a really good job of their cap situation, and because of that, you've had the ability to go out and sign a Dougie Hamilton and trade for Ryan Graves. As we look towards free agency, which is further down the line, but you have the money available. I'm not asking if there's a player specific you're looking for, but outside of goaltending, what's the next position you want to look to upgrade through free agency or through trade?
So I think probably getting another scorer would be really good, even though they're scoring like 5 goals a game. Right now, that's not really sustainable. So,
I mean, with how young the forward core is, you would like to have a veteran scorer.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I think that's probably why, even though Besser is only 24 years old, he's been in the league for a few years now. Probably why they're looking at him. Or same with Connor Garland. He probably could play
young enough and still get
Yeah. So I think they're going to look for a scorer. Whether it's, I guess, trading for Brock Besser or somewhere like him, or I'm not too familiar with the free agent class yet, but like I know Andre Burakovsky is a free agent, so is Nino Niederreiter. So like if those two guys don't re-sign with their teams,
JT Miller's a name that's out there.
Yeah, I don't. If he had more term on his deal, I think the Devils would definitely be in on him. But they're not going to trade for him since he only has like 16 months left on his contract, and I'm not even really sure. I'm not even really sure the Canucks are going to trade him, to be honest. I think they're going to try to re-sign him and move like maybe Besser or Garland instead. So
then I guess that takes Fleury out of the question for your goaltending conundrum then too.
Yeah, I would be really surprised. I mean, Fleury, if he decides to keep playing after the season, it's going to have to be with like a team that's, has the potential to be a Final Four team in the NHL playoffs, like
going home to Pittsburgh or something like that, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of want to see him on the Washington Capitals.
Oh God, no, that's not happening though.
Yeah,
we were talking about that in a previous episode. We were like, no.
To go to any team that's not the Penguins, like that's like a rival of the Penguins. So like,
that's why apparently he's rejected that trade like a few times already. I don't know who reported that, but like
a Washington trade.
Yeah, so like I don't know if Colorado could make the money work. Maybe they'd want him and Kemper as their two guys going into the playoffs. That'd be interesting.
Well, they're also really in on Giroux. So.
That's true. I forgot about that. Drew might make more sense for them actually. But like as far as it goes to Fleury and the Devils, I don't really see it. That's the interesting thing with Devils goaltending too, is like the free agent class is not really that great. So like if they're looking for like a long-term option, they're gonna probably have to look for a trade.
Yeah, because the only guy I think is really truly interesting in this free agent class for goaltending is Francouz in Colorado, but even he has a very, very small sample size because he's had some injury issues. And he hasn't been for a long time. His numbers look good, but it's hard to judge it.
Yeah, it's the injuries that scare me with him a little bit because the Devils are having problems with goalie injuries right now. So I don't know, like, do they want to take that risk? Probably not. Like that, but I mean, Kemper is actually a free agent too. That would probably be someone I would look at.
Oh, that's right, he is.
If he doesn't have if he doesn't get like if he's not looking for like a ridiculous contract as a free agent, I think that'd be someone they look at. Maybe Anton Forsberg's had a really good season with Ottawa too, so that might be someone they look at. But
interesting.
Yeah, he's had a pretty good season, and his like career numbers are pretty decent too. So I wouldn't, Ville Husso as well. He's an interesting guy.
Oh,
he's incredibly interesting.
Ville is stealing Binnington's job. You know that, right?
Yeah, which makes me wonder what the Blues are going to do there, because Binnington's contract is like pretty much immovable. So that's an interesting situation to watch.
Yeah, his numbers like have been they haven't been bad, but they've been relatively pedestrian. They're not what you'd expect first cap hit, and it's not what you expect out of a Stanley Cup winning goaltender.
Yeah. I mean,
but this is also the goaltender that told Martin Brodeur to fuck off. So
yeah, I mean, he always seems. I don't watch the Blues that often, but I feel like every time I do watch them, he's always acting up a little bit, and I'm like, dude,
all the time. This guy, I swear, I want to see him actually fight somebody, please, just to stop. And we know he's probably not going to.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But like, as far as free agency goes, like after giving Dougie Hamilton that kind of contract, I don't see them going for like another giant free agent. Like I think Johnny Gaudreau, if he doesn't sign in Calgary, he's from Jersey originally. I don't see the Devils doing that. Just because the cap hits, he's having a Hart caliber season, so that cap hit's probably going to be 8 figures now. So I don't see them doing something. I don't see them doing something like that again.
Yeah, and generally speaking, just my opinion is like, unless you have a lot of like, I had no issue with you guys going after Dougie Hamilton. I thought that made sense, but I'm generally opposed to going after 2 players in free agency with a lot of money, because you saw with the Minnesota Wild when they went after Ryan Suter and Zach Parise and how that worked out for them. So like, you can afford to do it with a Dougie Hamilton. I don't think you can afford to do Dougie Hamilton as well as Johnny Gaudreau while you're also building a team with, Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier, and I got Jesper Bratt, who's going to be making a lot more money. So,
yep, exactly. And Sharon Govich is an RFA either this off season too or next off season, so he's going to get a payday from what he's getting right now. So yeah, that's why I don't see them going for like a big name free agent. That's why I mentioned Nino Niederreiter before, because I think he could be someone who gets maybe like one of those second tier, like shortish, maybe like 3-year kind of deals. He would be like a good upgrade for them in the middle 6 if they want to go that way. So
to like when we signed Gus Nyquist, I think.
Right. I remember when the Blue Jackets signed Gus Nyquist. I was like, I thought he was a pretty good target for the Devils at the same time too. But like, so he's got he signed like a 4-year deal when he signed with Columbus.
4 years, yes.
I think that'd be reasonable for Nino Niederreiter.
Yeah, I think if the Devils could pull something off like that in free agency, and you could even apply that to maybe like trying to find a depth defenseman if Subban is, they trade him and they don't plan on re-signing him in the summer, you could maybe try to see them do something like that for a depth defenseman like Ilya Lyubushkin or something like that, or Jan Ruda if the Lightning don't re-sign him, something like that. So, but yeah, I don't expect them to go crazy in free agency this year like they did last year when they got Hamilton and Tomas Tatar and Bernier. I don't see them spending that kind of money.
Right, they already took a lot of splashes this past summer. So
Tatar's interesting. What's the general consensus on him?
So like the counting totals are not great. He's only got like 22 points in 50 games, but like his underlying numbers are still pretty solid. Like he's been pretty good, and lately he's been a little better. He's got like 5 points in his last 7 games or something like that. And
Tatar is one of those analytical darlings, though. Like,
yeah, I mean, he was his numbers with Montreal were just insane. That's why I was pushing so hard for in my writing for the Devils to sign him, because just like his numbers were absolutely ridiculous with Montreal. And his numbers have still been pretty good. He's just not scoring as much, but he's looked better the last few games on the third line with Andreas Janssen and Jesper Boquist. So
how good has Andreas Janssen been, by the way?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, last season Andreas Janssen was like the punching bag of the Devils fan base, and this year,
what's funny is I think he prefers Johnson, which is the funny thing.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, I see. I never know what these sometimes with the Swedish players, like it's either Jesper or Jesper. Yeah, so if it's Johnson, I'm sorry, Andreas, if you're listening to this.
We'll get to that point, hopefully.
But yeah, I think he's been really good this season, really good bounce back season. Like if you look at his numbers from last season, like it was just like kind of really obvious. Like he was in line for like to kind of get back to where he was with the Maple Leafs this season. So that's been a nice little I guess addition to the Devils this season.
Yeah.
Yeah. His offense shot up to 94%. And and Jay freshened him out, and the significant difference is his shooting percentage has gone up.
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, he was shooting like at the beginning of the season he was shooting like 30%, which was like really ridiculously unsustainable. I don't know what it's now. I think it's closer to like his career average. I think it's around like 14,
which is fine,
or something like that. But yeah, he's been solid bounce back season. He's looked like the player that the Devils thought they were getting when they traded for him a year and a half ago.
And that was in the trade with what was it? It was Joey Anderson. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that the only piece that went to Toronto?
I think it was, because it was a capped up trade in the off season when everybody was just like trying to get rid of assets.
Yeah, because they had no money from the financial losses from the pandemic. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Joey Anderson
everybody was just trying to Toronto.
Because that was in that offseason, you also made another move. You traded. There was a 5th-round pick for
Ryan Murray.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah. He had a pretty good season with New Jersey. I thought there was actually maybe a chance that they would have re-signed him for this season, but he moved on to Colorado. So
it wasn't a direct trade, but I mean, he went to Colorado, and then you ended up getting Ryan Graves. So,
that's true. It's a little bit of a swap. Yeah.
Kind of. But like, I think that's worked out well for both sides, because I think Murray's been a little bit more of a fit in Colorado, and I think Ryan Graves has played really well with you guys.
Yeah, he's really good. And whether it's on the second pair with Damon or the first pair with Dougie Hamilton, he's really contributed there. I didn't know he was like I had seen like the things about Graves' time in Colorado, just him just being kind of like trigger happy from the left point and just like fire. Yeah. He just shoots from everywhere from the left point. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But this season it's been working more often than not. He's getting the points, and some players are, I guess kind of capitalizing off the rebound chances he gets. So yeah, he's been good.
Yesterday against the Canucks, that deflected, didn't he?
Yeah, it went off like a Canucks. I think it was Luke Shen. It went off his leg or skate or something and went in. Yeah, Shen had a rough game. Shen and Tyler Myers had they had a rough game.
Tyler Myers has had a rough several years.
Yeah, he was on ice twice for one goal was Jack Hughes. He was on a 2-on-1 with Mercer, and Hughes, he didn't play the 2-on-1 correctly, and Hughes just fired a wrist shot, and then he made a terrible turnover to Hughes later, and Hughes like set up Sharangovich and Mercer and Sharangovich, and yeah, it was a rough night for him.
Tyler's like one of our favorite punching bags, because like we're a Blue Jackets podcast, but we talk about the Canucks and the Coyotes way too much.
Yeah. Canucks, man. I mean, I've because of these rumors that have come up with Brock Besser and stuff, like their fan base, it's just like I'm diving into a whole different world here. I don't want to piss off shamble right now, but yeah, it's a different game up there in Vancouver.
It really is. But going back to the defense, because we just talked about Ryan Graves, what do you think, like moving forward, you'd rather see for the defensive pairs? Do you want to see Siegenthaler continue to play with Hamilton? Do you want to see Graves play with Hamilton? Like what would you want your top 4 to be?
So yeah, I think this one's actually a pretty easy call for me with the way Siegenthaler has just kind of emerged as this really, I guess, elite defensive defenseman right now. I would like to see Siegenthaler stick with Hamilton, because like I'm not saying Siegenthaler is Jacob Slavens. Slavens a better defenseman than him, especially two ways. Siegenthaler is just like strictly a defensive defenseman, but like it's a little bit closer to that kind of arrangement that Dougie had down in Carolina. And then I like Graves and Severson have put up good numbers this season, so I like to see them stick together. And then I don't know what happens with the third pair, because Ty Smith is having like the year from hell. I guess you'd have either Smith or Colton White with Subban on the third pair.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right, I like that. So we're actually gonna
we're kind of running through time. We got to go through a couple quick things, but
let's go for
tonight's game. Let's go.
Your prediction for tonight's game, man. I mean, if I knew who was starting for the Devils, I would say like if Nico Daws were starting, I would definitely see like they got a chance. But if John Gillies is starting, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, because the Devils' offense is on fire right now, and Elvis has been like a little bit up and down this season. So I think there's going to be some goals. Yeah, I think there's going to be some goals tonight. But like I don't know. I probably, if Gillies is starting, I'd probably take like the Blue Jackets like 6-4 or something like that.
So this game is going to be a 2-1 game.
Yeah, probably. That's usually the way it goes. So like 1-0 shutout with Gillies getting like 40 saves on 41 shots or something ridiculous like that.
3-2 in the shootout. Let's go.
Yeah. When you make a prediction and you say like 6-4, it always ends up being the opposite and vice versa. So,
all right, we appreciate it, Alex. You've been a great guest. And
good to meet you. And we'll definitely we'll have you back on at some point for sure.
Yeah, I think the Devils and Blue Jackets still got another meeting, I think, at least this season. So yeah,
really fun to have you on as our first guest. Like we're just a tiny little show right now, but like
that's how you got to start up. So no, sounds good to me.
Take care, buddy.
Jake Jackets, a podcast for fifth liners and all puckheads around. Follow the guys on Twitter at Snake Garinger, GARRINGER, and at By J Ashdown. And subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen. March on.